I usually pretty down are like but we have to find people to come with your I had a teacher.
Let me have your attention. Let me have your attention. Let's begin. Welcome to the University of Tennessee Nuclear Engineering Department Colloquium program. My name is Dodds, and I'm usually the guy that introduces the speaker. But since today I am the speaker, and I'm not going to spend time introducing myself. But I do want to spend some time letting some new graduate students introduce themselves. And what I want you to do, we'll just go around the room, ask you to stand up, state your name and where you're from, okay? And Becky, let's start with you.
I'm Becky. I just
In case you didn't hear her, I think Thomas, you didn't hear her, right? Well, that's yet to be determined in some cases, so let's leave that out. In case you didn't hear, Becky is from Georgia Tech. Okay. Okay.
I'm originally from Iran, and I have been in the U.S. since 1977. And I attended UTNE, moved back to University.
Okay. Matt?
I'm Matt Miller. Most of you all know me.
There are a lot of people that don't know you, so don't make that assumption. John?
I'm John Edwards, and I'm from Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia. All here as well from undergrad.
Ben?
I'm Ben Robinson. I went to American College, graduated in 03, and now from there.
Okay. Jenny?
I'm Jenny. I'm from Mainland China, and I graduated from University and got my master's degree there. And come here to get my PhD degree.
Okay. Nishka, maybe I should repeat. Jenny's from Mainland China, from Tsinghua University in Beijing. Okay, in case the mic didn't pick it up. Nishka? Nikita?
My name is Nikita, and I'm a student from Russia, from Uralsky Technical University.
Okay. Nikita's from Russia, that's right. Do we have any new ones in the back? I think all the rest. Now, we do have more new graduate students, but they're not here today. They'll be hearing from me as a result. Okay. Today, what I want to do is give you sort of an overview of what we have planned this year for our colloquium program. Most of the dates, as you will see shortly, for the fall semester have been booked. And then I also want to remind everyone that we do have refreshments after the colloquium. We do this every week. And today, I think Kristen has arranged maybe for some special refreshments, since this is a welcome back from the summer for some of you. Although most of you, I'm looking, were here during the summer working away, which is a good thing. So let's get started. All right, it's a good idea to review the purpose or objectives of this colloquium program, since it does take some of our time, and it takes a lot of my time and a lot of Gary's time. We're here studying nuclear engineering, which is a good thing, okay? But we need to sometimes think outside of the box, and even outside of the nuclear box. We need to learn from speakers outside of our department and outside of the university even. Most of our speakers, in fact, do come from outside the university. We want to stay informed about current events and new opportunities. And when we invite these people in, it's important that we promote good relations with our speakers, because a lot of them are sponsors, research sponsors, and they provide the money that pays your salary. And so it's important to be nice to people like that, right? And then finally, we do have this reception after the presentation each week, and the idea there is to create a family-type atmosphere among faculty and students and guests where we get together and socialize and have some refreshments and get to know each other better on a personal level, which is always a good thing. And then, of course, we webcast these presentations to cyberspace. And not only do we do it in real time, right now it's being webcast, but we will capture the digital image, the file, the digital file, and it'll be put on our website and available in the future. So if by chance there's a colloquium presentation that you miss, you can see it later, usually later that day or certainly by the next morning, and then next week or even next year. We now have 4 years of archived colloquium presentations. And I think we're probably the only nuclear engineering department in the country, well, I know we are, that we do something like this on a regular basis where we share it with the entire nuclear community. We may be the only engineering program of any discipline that does it. I'm not aware of anybody else that's doing what we're doing, which is really sharing information. Okay, this is not working. Here we go. All right, what we just went over were the objectives for the colloquium program. Today, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of what I have planned. I got the speakers' names and their topic, although the topic that they have given me thus far may not be exact. They may change the wording a little bit. So it's just a subject area. And as I said, I have most of the Wednesdays booked, the ones that are available during the fall semester, but I haven't booked anybody for the spring semester. And so I want your ideas and suggestions for speakers that we could get and topics. If you don't know a speaker but you have a topic, one comes to mind. First of all, we don't always do nuclear topics in here. We occasionally, at least once a semester, we like to have something totally new and different. And occasionally we get that. In the past, we had a graduate student who his hobby was classical guitar, okay? And we had a classical guitar recital for one half of one colloquium presentation a couple of years ago. The other half was slides that one of our professors had took on a trip that a very interesting trip to Germany. And so we do things like that at least once a semester. We can, at this time today, we can discuss any other topic that is on your mind that you want to bring up and we can talk about. You remember in the late spring we had our forum. I think I was out of the country, so I missed it, but where you can discuss anything, any complaint or any comments you want to bring up. We can do that today in the time remaining. And then, of course, we're going to have this reception. All right, here's I've got all the Wednesdays this semester on the next few slides. Of course, today is my presentation. And then next week, the plan is to have Dr. Alvin Weinberg again. If you don't know who he is, he was in the Manhattan Project. He just turned 90 years old. His mind is as good as it was 60 years ago, but his body is 90 years old, okay? And there's a question mark as to whether or not his health will permit him to show up. And in fact, he wasn't going to come. But as you know, we have the ability to do video conferencing over IP, over Internet protocol. And so for the last 3 weeks, Gary and I and some other people in the university have been arranging for a video conference from Oak Ridge. We were going to go from his home, but we're going to go on the Oak Ridge Turnpike, the UT Battelle offices on the Oak Ridge Turnpike, video conference to here, and you will be able to ask questions, and he'll answer them in real time, okay? And that's so he doesn't have to go but a mile or so from his home. He didn't feel like his health was good enough to come all the way over here. We normally go pick him up, take him to lunch, he does his presentation, and then we take him home, okay? He didn't feel like he could do that this year. So we're going to try this video conference thing. The technology is working. We had a test yesterday, and it's working. There's always a question as to whether or not he's going to feel well enough to do it. Plus, his wife is in poor health. And so we don't know, and hopefully it'll turn out that he will be here, but we never know. And then on September the 8th, we have Thomas Zachariah. Thomas is an associate laboratory director at Oak Ridge for high-performance computing. Some of you may be aware that ORNL was recently competed with the other national labs on who's going to develop the world's, it always changes, the next fastest computer in the world, okay? The next one will be probably a U.S. computer, high performance, the fastest computer, and all the national labs competed to get that contract from DOE, and Oak Ridge won it. And so he will be here to tell us about that effort, and that's something that they're very proud of, and we're very proud for them. That's September the 8th. And on the 15th, Alex Fisher, who is the Director of Technology, Transfer, and Economic Development at ORNL, okay? We have all this wonderful R&D that's going on at the National Lab and surrounding organizations next to the National Lab, including UT. How do we get that technology to the marketplace, to improve society, to provide jobs, to make life better? And so that's this guy's responsibility, and so he will be here to tell us how he does that. And on September the 22nd, we have a young guy, John Kotek, and very impressive young man. He is the Deputy Director of the Idaho Operations Office for DOE. Idaho National Engineering Lab has been designated as the lead laboratory for the development of nuclear power reactors for the future, okay? Everybody, all the labs and even the vendors get involved in these developments. But there had to be a lead laboratory, and Idaho has been designated as the lead laboratory, and John had a lot to do with that designation, and so he's going to come and make a presentation. And I think you'll be impressed by John Kotek. And then on September the 29th, we have John Rupert, who is the chief, he was the chief nuclear engineer for TVA, okay? He held that title for several years, and which was one of the main reasons that we got him on our advisory board for our department. He's one of about 9 or 10 members of our advisory board. More recently, he was given an awesome responsibility at TVA. He is in charge of Browns Ferry Unit 1 restart. Some of you may know about Browns Ferry Unit 1. It was shut down about 20 years ago. Shut down, and they never really restarted it. They've been stealing parts from it, I should say that, borrowing parts from it to keep Units 2 and Units 3 operating. And TVA's done really well. Now they predict they need more power, and they looked at all the options, and nuclear, restarting Browns Ferry Unit 1 in northern Alabama is the most economical way for TVA to add base load capacity to their grid, which speaks really well for nuclear. And John has responsibility for that restart. That is the closest thing we have in the United States to constructing a new nuclear power reactor. And that one's really not new, but it's because it hasn't operated in 20 years, and it's been robbed of most of its parts. It's almost like a brand new reactor. What's wrong with it? There we go. Okay, and then on October the 6th, we have Frank Harris, who's a really interesting person. In fact, we got him about, a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. We go to lunch occasionally at the arena. Frank Harris is former Associate Laboratory Director of ORNL in charge of biology and ecology, life science type stuff. And he actually came from UT, where he was in charge of all the biology programs here at the University of Tennessee. And he went there. Now he's back at UT as an interim vice chancellor. And he's an interesting guy to listen to and to have lunch with. And we were asking him what he's doing and what his interests are. He has an interest in developing a natural history museum, which is going to be located near the Great Smoky Mountain, or in the park, the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. This is not a UT project. It's not an Oak Ridge project. It's a personal Frank Harris and everybody that loves the Smokies type project. And so he's going to come and tell us about that, which I think will be really interesting. Now, October the 13th is an open date. I don't have anybody scheduled on the 13th. October the 20th, I don't have anybody scheduled, and both of these dates are available to have a speaker, an outside. So if there are any suggestions, and if we can get the speaker to come on these dates, we can do that. But the reason I didn't schedule one on October the 20th is that I'm not going to be here. Okay, I like these presentations. I like to hear what people have to say that are not in our immediate environment, and I don't want to miss one. And so since I scheduled them, the last date I'm going to put a speaker that wants to speak is going to be on one that I'm not going to be here. But if we come up with a speaker, that date is certain. The reason I'm not going to be here, I'll be talking to 525 freshmen. 3 different presentations on that day. That's my day to speak to the freshmen in the College of Engineering. It's all the department heads have a day to do that. And then on October the 27th, this is this is a friend of mine from about 30 years ago. He's a colleague of Dr. Larry Townsend. They used to work together at NASA. This guy, Dr. Barry Ganapal, is the last remaining nuclear engineer at the University of Arizona. Okay, their program really was merged into mechanical engineering, and they really don't have a program now, so I'm told. But Barry is still there, and he does occasionally teach some nuclear courses, and he's a very interesting speaker. Being from the Southwest, not originally from the Southwest, but he's now from the Southwest, he has adopted that culture 100%. So he wears all Western clothes, cowboy hats, cowboy boots, and his email user ID is Transport Cowboy. He's a really interesting guy, and he is a very sophisticated mathematician. Okay, that's what he does his research on. So if you like unusual applications of the Boltzmann transport equation, well, look at his topic: evolution of discrete ordnance neutron transport in 1D. 1D, you can do a lot of stuff analytically in 1D. He likes to solve the equations analytically, and he does that. And so I'm looking forward to his presentation. He also likes country music and everything that goes with country music, which I guess would be line dances and things like that. On November the 3rd, we have Michael Howard. Michael Howard is a graduate of our program. He got a master's degree here in nuclear engineering, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. He worked under Dr. Miller, as I recall. Is that right? It's either Miller or Townsend or Grower. Okay. And in the area of health physics, and he went on to pursue certification as a medical physicist, and he is indeed a certified medical physicist at a large hospital in the Orlando area, I think, in Florida. And so he's going to come and make a presentation about the practice of medical physics. What do medical physicists do? I know we have several students in here who are interested in medical physics. We've produced students who are now medical physicists out practicing medical physics. And so this one reason for asking Michael, apparently medical physics, it does pay rather well. He and his wife have endowed an undergraduate scholarship for our department, okay? And that was just finally negotiated just a few months ago. And so when somebody gives us money like that over a long period of time, we want to be nice to them and ask them to come and speak, right? But you will learn a lot from Michael. He's a very bright young man. And then on November the 10th, we have Donald Blaufox. Donald Blaufox has both a PhD and an MD. He is the chief of nuclear medicine at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York City. And he's going to be here to talk about the latest trends in nuclear medicine. And I hope to get some of our medical physics people, nuclear medicine people from UT Hospital and surrounding hospitals to attend that particular colloquium. And then on November the 17th, that is the week of the National ANS meeting, and most of our faculty will be attending that meeting, and so, and I'll be attending that meeting, and so I didn't schedule one for that. And that date is open, though. If you have a speaker and a topic, and he wants to come on November the 17th, the faculty, we don't have to be here, okay? There'll be some faculty here, but most of us will be attending the meeting. So all I ask is that if you have a speaker and a topic, that you do the scheduling through me. This summer, we had a little miscommunication, and we had 2 colloquium presentations back-to-back on successive days. And what that meant, there was no time to advertise the second one. Okay, you can't really do it simultaneously. You have to do them one at a time. And so please, if you have an idea or a speaker that you want to invite, please coordinate through me so that we don't have any problems like that again. And then November the 24th is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. We know from past experience that's not a good time to have a colloquium because a lot of people will cut out early, and I certainly understand that. Keep in mind that all of us, all the faculty here, we were students too at one time. Okay, we know how important it is to go home for Thanksgiving, and so we're not going to force you to stay here to attend the colloquium on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And December the 1st, actually classes end November the 30th, which is Tuesday, and so December the 1st is the first of 2 study days prior to final exam week. And we don't schedule colloquium on a study day. We want you to be reviewing your notes, and we want you to perform as well as you possibly can on your exams. So we won't have one. And then the spring semester, I don't have anything scheduled. But here's some topics that I have thought of, or at least a few that I've thought of. I haven't listed all of them. I've asked Stan Malora, who is the Division Director for Fusion Energy at Oak Ridge. I had him scheduled one time, and he got called to Washington and had to cancel. And we haven't been able to reschedule him. But he's the leader at Oak Ridge for Fusion. And as it turns out, Oak Ridge, along with Princeton University, were recently selected in a competition again, just like the high performance computing, in a competition. Ornell and Princeton University, Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory in particular, submitted a proposal to lead the U.S. effort in the ITER project, I-T-E-R. Which is a real honor for Oak Ridge, and they're all excited about it. ITER stands for International Tokamak Experimental Reactor, okay? And they're going to lead the U.S. effort. So we got Oak Ridge being a national leader in both high-performance computing and the next step in fusion. We'd like to get Stan over here to tell us about prospects for fusion. And then occasionally my lunch buddies and I, which are usually Dr. Miller and Dr. Townsend, occasionally we'll go downtown and to a little deli called Harold's Deli. It's the best place in town, I think, to get a deli-type sandwich, although it's a little more expensive. And right down the street on Gay Street from Harold's Deli, there is the East Tennessee Alliance for Clean Energy. And the director of that is Stephen Smith, whom I think is also a local dentist. okay? And, but his wife, her name is Libby, and she is very nice, and Dr. Miller and I and Dr. Townsend, we stop occasionally, at least once a semester, and we have a little conversation with Libby Smith, who's a very nice person and listens well, and we listen to her, but they are very much anti-nuclear people, okay? Now, maybe their attitudes are changing a little bit. I know most attitudes across the country are definitely changing. The American public is, as you probably know, 2/3 of the American public, and if you get 2/3 of the American public to agree on anything, it's considered a landslide, are very much in favor of more nuclear power, okay? They're polls to indicate that. Well, apparently Stephen and Libby don't believe the polls, and so it occurred to me that we might want to invite these people to hear their perspective, okay? An anti-nuclear person. Now, maybe we don't want to do this. I'm curious as to how you feel about it. Last fall, we invited Dr. Robert Norris, who is a senior staff member at the Natural Resources Defense Council in Washington, D.C., NRDC, to make a presentation, and he did that. We did that one by video conferencing over IP. He didn't even come here. He was in his office in D.C., and we had his slides down here. You could see him. You could ask him questions. You could see his slides in real time. We archived it. You can go look at the archive. But he wrote a book on General Leslie Groves, who was the leader of the Manhattan Project, okay, the military leader for the Manhattan Project. And it was a history book. I mean, it's just pure history, and it was a good book. And so we invited him to talk about his book, which he did. And I counseled with him about the nature of his presentation, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have let him say anything anti-nuclear he wanted to say. But he agreed to just talk about his book, okay? So maybe we want to get Libby come and give us her perspective, or maybe the other guy, Stephen. Personally, I would prefer Libby. I think both Dr. Townsend and Dr. Miller would prefer Libby, too. And then another thing that we could do, our faculty, this past year, we've done a lot of international travels. We've been to all these countries. Portugal, in fact, one faculty member went twice to Portugal. China, Taiwan, Brazil, Germany, Canada, and probably some others. Where'd you go? You went to France, but you also went to that little bitty, what's that place that I can never get the right? Singapore? Singapore. That was year before. That was year before, okay. And in fact, Dr. Peavy, on his trip to Singapore, he gave us a presentation, which was a very interesting presentation. We could do that again, if you're interested. So these are my ideas. This is what I have been able to arrange so far. And so now I'd like to get your ideas. And so let's open the floor. Can I borrow a piece of paper? I forgot to bring my planner where I keep all my pieces of paper. So you're not going to let me have a piece of paper?
You can have a pen, but no paper.
I can take the same attitude about raises too. I would never do that. Okay, what ideas do you have? I remember, while you're thinking, one idea that Dr. Peavy had about 3 years ago that we never got somebody. Was this the news analyst? What was you're right.
Yeah, Gary Lund.
And what was
The guy, he's a political commentator.
A political commentator.
Yeah, or kind of like.
And we do these types of presentations maybe once a semester, okay? The rest of the time, it's mostly nuclear stuff.
It's election year again. Might be a good time.
Election year, yeah. All right, Gary Lowe, right?
Right.
I think since it is election year, let's try to do that. Why don't you call him and see if he'll do it, and then ask him to contact me to schedule it. Right. Okay? So we're going to have a political commentator.
There was a guy that we had a few years back, the Union of Concerned Scientists.
David.
And he since then resigned his position, I think it was on the ACRS, out of some problem he had with the way things were being handled there. It might be good to get him here and get his perspective on how things are these days.
The guy we had 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah,
this
he's
is
been
David Lockbaum. Yeah, he's a graduate of our program, and he has been for several years. He's worked with UCS, Union of Concerned Scientists, and you say he's resigned now?
No, he didn't resign from the union. He was on a committee. I have to dig it up, but he resigned his position because he was unhappy with some undemocratic procedures the committee was going through. Yeah, he had to fly the flag. The other guy would be Brandon Kirby. He's on the Federal Energy FERC Regulatory Commission, I guess. He was here also a few years back, but there's been so many changes in the deregulation of the electric market that it'd be good to get an update on how that's going.
All right, Brandon, what's his last name?
Kirby.
Kirby. And he's with FERC?
Yeah, he's an FERC member, and he's also an ORNL employee. So.
Okay, yeah, I remember him. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he gave an interesting presentation. Well?
Somebody to talk about space nuclear club.
Space nuclear. That's a hot topic these days. It'll become even hotter when the government decides to put some money there. But right now, everybody is waiting for the government to do their appropriations in the field. I mean, there's small amounts of seed money, but not much in the way of big money, according to George Flannery.
There's big ones this year. Wait, it's a special budget is next year.
Okay.
$200 million.
Oh, really? That is big. It's nice. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I know. There's the budget, the government R&D budget for fusion is actually more than for fission. But anyway, all right, that's good. We got space nuclear, and what else? What other suggestions?
Now, several years back, Dr. Katz took a group of people with Dr. Bass over the body talk.
Yeah.
I know that having him come talk has been requested in the past.
All right, let's do that. I would love to hear him. He used to have a lab behind our building. Thank goodness that lab is no longer there, because what they had an incinerator, and they had a smokestack, and what they did when they got through with their studies, their body studies at the body farm, they would incinerate the remains right behind our building in this other building. And to make a long story short, the smokestack was not tall enough. Is that enough said? All right. Dr. Bass. Okay. These are good suggestions. Any other
I
suggestions?
think an easy way to fill in when we have open dates is some of our research professors maybe doing work out at Oak Ridge. We don't hear a lot about what they do. It'd be great to have them.
Most of our research professors do research here with us, but
I guess
right,
some
give them an
people
opportunity.
that maybe been XORNL folks or might be doing some work out there.
Okay, all right, let me, okay, another good suggestion. Other suggestions? Are we all out of suggestions?
You had Homeland Security last year. You want to do it again?
Well, we could. Let me list the topic. I'll tell you what we do need to do, and I've already talked with him, and that's Bob Greenberg, who is the director of UT Placement Services. I think it's good every couple of years to get him to come and tell you about what his organization offers you in the way of helping you find a job when you graduate. They have a really sophisticated shop over there, and they interact with hundreds to thousands of companies. And a lot of these companies, I think the first job fair is going to be September the 8th. I'll send an email to everyone. But I do know he's already told me there are 5 or 6 nuclear companies coming to interview engineers. Not just nuclear engineers, but mechanicals and electricals too, okay? So it's good, even if you're just a new student and you're not ready to start looking for a job, to update your resume, even if it's just your undergraduate education and your interns or co-op, whatever. Update your resume and go over there and distribute it. Make face-to-face contact with the company. And when you go over there, I encourage you to dress appropriately, okay? They'll remember that, because a lot of the students won't. And when you're trying to get a professional job, you want to look like a professional, and you can leave a good, lasting impression if you do that with a good resume. And if you don't know how to do a resume, I'll help you. I do that all the time for our students, and I'll be glad to try to help you. Do we have any other suggestions for speakers and presentations for next semester and for these 1 or 2 dates that we have available this semester? Sir.
I have a couple of PhD students talk about their dissertation.
Yeah. Particularly if their dissertations are of general interest. The problem is when you get, that's the reason I try to keep these speakers on a general. When Barry Ganapal gets here, it's going to be general, okay? That's going to be as detailed and as sophisticated as you can get. But that's only going to appeal to maybe 2 or 3 people in the audience, namely Dr. Peavy, Dr. Townsend, and maybe Dr. Miller. And so we can do that, and we will do that, particularly if there's one that is of general interest. Okay, any other suggestions? What was your suggestion?
I have 2 suggestions.
Oh.
One is related to Dr. Budaya's suggestion. At the University of Florida, they have an Institute for Nuclear Space Propulsion. Maybe we could get some speakers for the nuclear space.
How about the director, who is Samim Mangaya? He's a friend of mine. He's also from Iran. And he's a very productive researcher, a wonderful professor. I can invite him. Let me do that, Samim. And if he can't come, he can probably recommend somebody who can. Okay. And
the other one was that I wanted to know if it's okay to have a speaker talk about from Livermore National Lab, talk about the National Ignition Facility.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we probably, because Oak Ridge is so close and we know so many people, that's the reason we have so many presentations from Oak Ridge. We would love to have more presentations from Livermore, Los Alamos, Lawrence, Berkeley, all the Sandia. I have friends at Sandia. We should try that. So you want the National Ignition Facility, NIF, from Livermore. Any other ideas? We're so glad you were able to join us today. I know, I'm just teasing. Hey, it's okay to come in to the colloquium late, okay? And if you have class, it's not okay. But if you've got a really good, strong reason, then you can come in late. And like Dr. Hines has class at 2:30, and occasionally our speakers will, if he stayed till the speaker finished, he might be late for class. And so it's okay to get up and slip out if you've got to go somewhere. But you better have a good reason, right? Okay. Any other suggestions? Ideas?
We'll have Bowman come.
Bowman.
He comes during the summer, but nobody ever sees him because nobody's here.
In case you folks don't know who Bowman is, Admiral Skip Bowman. Some of you will know who Rickover, senior moment there. Rickover was. He was the guy who really was the founder of our nuclear navy, and really was the founder of the light water reactor concept. It was on his watch, and there have been 3 guys since to have Rickover's job. It's a 4-star admiral job, and the latest one is Admiral Frank Bowman, who is a native of Tennessee. He's from Chattanooga. He's a 4-star admiral in the U.S. Navy, and when he comes, it is really exciting. First of all, he has his own private jet, and he has his entourage of officers that come the week before, 2 weeks before, to make sure that everything is perfect for this guy. Well, his tenure, it's an appointment, and Rickover's job and Bowman's job is an 8-year appointment, and his 8 years are up September the 30th, which is a month away. And the new guy has been designated. His name is Donald, Admiral Donald. But Bowman has, Skip Bowman has been named the President, Chairman, CEO of NEI, which is the Nuclear Energy Institute, which is the pro-nuclear organization where you got the anti-nuclear people, you got the pro-nuclear people. NEI is definitely the pro-nuclear. That's the lobbying organization for the nuclear industry, the entire nuclear industry, not just nuclear power, nuclear medicine, nuclear everything. And Bowman is going to lead that effort. And so we can, he'll probably come. Hopefully he will come. That's an excellent suggestion because he's a wonderful speaker. We already have him once or twice in his job as the Chief of Naval Operations, Chief of Naval Reactors. Naval reactors, you know how many power reactors we have in the United States? 103, right? Guess how many naval reactors operate every day in the United States? 103.
104.
104.
He said he had one more.
Oh, he did. Okay, 104. And so he has lots of experience with a different type of reactor. And he's one of the smartest guys that I ever listened to. You just about have to be. He knows a little bit about everything, technically. And in some areas, he knows a lot. You've got to be really knowledgeable to have a job like that. Any other suggestions?
A couple of years ago, we had Corelli talk about IRIS PWR. What about getting somebody to talk about the ABWR?
The ABWR, all right. That's a good, Advanced Boiling Water Reactor. That's a generation 3.5 reactor. 2 of them have been built, or being built in Japan. And they're being considered along with the AP1000 and AP600, which are Westinghouse pressurized concepts. This ABWR is a General Electric boiling water reactor concept, generation 3, which is supposed to be super simple and super safe and super economical. That's a good suggestion. I guess that is, of the generation 3 reactors, this one has been purchased and it's almost finished. It's under construction in Japan, almost finished. So we need, and this is the state of the art for nuclear power reactors today. And so we should try to get somebody. That's a good suggestion. Dr. Miller may know somebody, or Dr. Fontana, and GE. Okay. Well, we can check into it. Any other suggestions? One of my colleagues told me to be brief, and I said I would certainly keep it less than 45 minutes. And we're in our 45th minute. So if you have any other ideas after we adjourn, just send me an email or drop by my office and make the suggestions. But before we adjourn, let me remind you that we do have refreshments downstairs, and everyone is invited. So thank you very much. I need to borrow this. Right, I need to borrow this. And I'm going to write this down in my book. I'm having Can you?
I'd like to give him that.
Okay.